Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the Undisputed Podcast, where me and my co-host Jeff go over two matches from each pay-per-view starting in 1997, except for WrestleMania, where we do the main event guaranteed, and then we each pick two matches. So, my match we just did, that was the dumpster match between the New Age Outlaws versus Cactus Jack and Chainsaw Charlie for the tag titles. Now we're doing Jeff's match, which is Kane versus The Undertaker, which is only... This is the only thing acceptable, really, because we've been following their build-up to this through the other matches that we've done all the way until this. So, it's only sweet justice that this is a match that we go over, and it's a old personal favorite of mine. It's not the best wrestling match in the world, but this is a old personal favorite to my heart from when I was a little kid watching wrestling. Back when I used to think this shit was real, pretty much. I was 6. And, seeing two guys this big and this monsters fight each other just had me going, man. So, start out. Pete Rose is a special guest ring announcer. He comes out and he starts trolling the crowd. He's from the Reds. They're in Boston. He starts trolling the Red Sox crowd or whatever about how they can't win World Series and the curse of the Bambino and all this type of stuff. Then the lights go out. Kane's music hits. Kane comes out. Pete Rose is kind of like in shock. Doesn't know what to think. Kane grabs him by his throat. Looks like he's going to chokeslam, but then just changes his mind. Just picks him right up. Tombstones the legendary Pete Rose right on top of his head. The Hit King goes down. Then the Undertaker comes out. He's got his druids. They come out with the torches, and Undertaker comes out. Pretty neat little entrance. Pretty neat for back in 1998 anyway. We've seen a lot better entrances now. But from back then, that was quite the spectacle at that point in time. So, that's what we get there. Undertaker and Kane go face to face. Taker has some hard right hands. He backed Kane into a corner. And then Kane ends up clotheslining the Undertaker. Where did I go? Why did I lost my spot already? Kane clotheslines the Undertaker, but the Undertaker sits right up. Kane ends up picking up the Undertaker, what looks like tombstone position, and then just driving him back first into the turnbuckle, and then stomping on his chest. So already right out the gate, we're getting some nice action. It's not slow. Big guys, a lot of the problems were, and we've seen this with Kane versus Vader. We just went over 2 matches ago. It's very slow. Not a lot happens. This match is, let's go. Two of the most athletic big men to ever be in this company, and they're going at it right away. Kane has some more against the Undertaker, and then Kane runs and clotheslines him in the corner, and then you see Kane pick Undertaker up and front suplexes him onto the top rope. Taker falls back into the ropes, and then you see Taker kind of jump up on top of Kane's shoulders and start punching him. So Kane just drops him on his head in the middle of the ring. Then they head up to the outside of the ring. Kane picks up Undertaker, drops him on the security railing. And then he sends him into the steel steps. Kane then picks up the steel steps, slams him in the Undertaker's back, drops the Undertaker's head onto the steel steps that are still on the ground, and then picks up the other ones and slams them on top of him again while he kind of sandwiches them between the two layers of the steel steps. Then Paul Bearer ends up taking a cheap shot, punches the Undertaker in the back of the head. And then Kane would suplex the Undertaker back into the ring. So now the action's back there. And then Taker hits a clothesline, but it doesn't budge Kane. Kane ends up just grabbing the Undertaker and choke slamming him. And he pins him, and he gets 1, 2, and the Undertaker doesn't move, but Kane picks his shoulders up off the mat and then puts him into a headlock. So he could have won the match here, so keep that in mind. Puts him in a headlock. This is the only part of the match that gets slow. The headlock bit takes a second. Taker ends up back suplexing Kane over the top rope to get out, 5 minutes later or so. And Taker does his little WrestleMania vintage dive where he goes across the ring and he jumps over the top rope, but Kane sidesteps it and Undertaker crashes and burns through the announcer's table. The announcer's table just absolutely explodes when he hits it. It's a cool looking spot. Kane puts the Undertaker back into the ring, and then he nails a flying clothesline from the top rope. He gets a 2 count, and then they both get up and they're exchanging right hands back and forth. Just bam, 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 you know. Taker goes for a tombstone. Kane reverses it, you know, where he like falls backwards and now Undertaker's in tombstone position. Kane hits the tombstone on the Undertaker, gets a 2 count. The Undertaker actually kicks out of that. Kane, this kind of irritates Kane a little bit. Kane starts beating the Undertaker into the corner. But then Taker powers out of the corner and gives a choke slam to Kane. And he picks up a tombstone and he gets a 2 count. And the announcers are going nuts because Undertaker's been in here 98. Undertaker's been here since 1990. So 8 years. And nobody's ever kicked out of the tombstone before. So Kane kicks out. Undertaker bounces against the ropes. He gets a leg drop. Then he decides to hit the tombstone again. And Kane kicks out of a second one. Oh my God. Yeah. 2. Nobody's ever kicked out of 1. And here's Kane kicking out of 2. So Kane sits up. Undertaker goes to the top rope. Hits a flying clothesline. Kane sits up again. It's like, what the hell does it take to keep this monster down? Taker hits a 3rd tombstone, and this time instead of crossing the arms, he actually hooks the leg, and he gets the 3 count. But even then, Kane still kicks out, like right as the ref's hand hits 3. So Kane almost kicked out of another tombstone. But the Undertaker gets the victory here. Very hard fought matchup. Very back and forth. I enjoy this matchup quite a bit. Both these guys have had better matches against other people, but as far as matches against each other go, I think this is the best one they ever have. Just my opinion, though. That's up to you guys to decide. This was a great match. The hype was there because they were both almost untouchable. Blah, blah. Anyways, let's get to the after the match stuff. Paul Bearer grabs a steel chair, throws it into the ring, and then starts stomping on the Undertaker. The Undertaker gets a right hand to Paul Bearer, but the Undertaker's all beat up because Kane put him through hell. Kane, chair to the back of the Undertaker, then drops the chair, and he picks up Taker and tombstones him on top of the chair. And as they're leaving, the Undertaker ends up sitting up right as they're leaving. So, with everything that's being said, I'm going to give this match an 8 out of 10. Very exciting, especially for 2 big men. I'm gonna give it a mark up because what they did with their size, right? Because they're big people, so they were usually these matches are slow. This match was not slow, other than the headlock sequence. It was pretty impactful, hard hitting. They were moving, they were going. They didn't stop around and sit around and just do a bunch of punches like always. I mean, there were some punches. That's part of being a big man, but they moved. I give this an 8 out of 10. Watch it if you can. Let's hear what Jeff's got to say. Thank you guys for coming. Next, we're going to do Shawn Michaels versus Stone Cold Steve Austin, the main event for the WWF title. Let's go.